taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. November 20th, 2019 is the date today. It's the Wednesday evening edition of the show. My name is Ashton Inity, back from a week on vacation. Great to be back with you all. I'm here, as always, with Obsidian. How's it going? How's it going, sir?
It's going good, and apologies for not getting either of the previous podcasts. Last week exploded in so many amazing ways and with so many amazing problems. So it was just a mulligan. So forgive us.
Well, yeah, we'll just call it a vacation week for the channel, but we are back. I know a lot of you did enjoy the content that we did put out last week, some Outer Worlds playthrough, but we are back in the swing of things. So glad to be back with you. All right.
The news is, not much happened last week, but this week, goodness sakes, the news just doesn't stop. So
yeah, there's a ton to talk about.
Yeah, lots and lots of things, just out of, some of it literally out of the blue. So.
Yeah, one of those things being a new Half-Life game, not Half-Life 3, of course, because as we all know, that's higher than Valve can count. But we have a Half-Life game coming to VR from Valve. So we're going to dive into that and what that's about. We have some leaks. Not our leaks, but there are some leaks that we will dive into with that. Google Stadia launched.
I have some leaks on this.
Do you? Okay.
It's just they're really old, and we've been over it a few times.
I do remember you mentioning a Half-Life VR game before.
We've talked about this for forever. That when they threw around the idea of a MOBA and a card game and a VR version of Half-Life 3. Amongst about 20 other different pitches. It's not like they haven't been doing stuff. And really, when you think about it, it's like they want to innovate with these titles. And up until now, there's been very little to innovate on. Aside from, there was some talk about doing an MMO because that was, quote unquote, innovative. But they kind of, by the time they started to seriously think about it, they're like, it looks like the MMO genre is kind of going into the gutter here. So
you know what, you want to be innovative with Half-Life, just add some awesome new game, combat and movement mechanics and things that weren't possible back when Half-Life 1 and 2 came out. And that's what they did with Half-Life 2 with the grav gun, and they are innovating. We'll get into this all in a little bit here. The details that we have about the new Half-Life. Google Stadia, of course, has launched, and it's not getting good reviews, and a lot of people are asking, who exactly is this for? So we're going to talk about that as well. And we're going to end the night with some reviews/impressions of some games that we've been playing. I've been playing Jedi Fallen Order, and Sib's been into Kingdom Under Fire 2, so we're going to end the night talking about those things. First, right off the bat, we have our Game Awards nominees that have been announced, and the nominees for Game of the Year this year. The awards show, of course, coming up in December, early December. Control is one of the nominees for Game of the Year. That kind of surprised me. It's good to see an indie game on there. I know it was definitely an innovative title that a lot of people enjoyed. I have not had the opportunity to play it because it was, of course, an Epic exclusive, and so I don't know. I thought that would limit it to the point where maybe it wouldn't be, or I thought it would have limited a game like that to the point where, maybe it wouldn't get the exposure necessary to become a Game of the Year contender. But anyway, Death Stranding, of course, is on the list. Resident Evil 2. No, that's not a mistake. It's the remake, of course. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. No surprise there. That game is amazing. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a bit of a surprise to me. It's not a surprise that they would have a Nintendo title on there, I suppose, but Smash Brothers Game of the Year,
that
feels
at
feels
point,
to me
at
like
this point they're basically just pitching for more people to play the game.
Yeah,
and
like
to
to
get
me
more
that
people
feels
into it.
like that feels like nominating the latest Fast and Furious movie as like best picture at the Oscars or something. Like it's good and it's fun, but is it really is it really game of the year? I don't know. And The Outer Worlds, interestingly enough. I guess I shouldn't be surprised to see it on there. I don't think it'll win. I mean, it's a fantastic game, but it's I don't know. Are you surprised to see Outer Worlds on the list?
Um, no, no, I'm not surprised at all. Obsidian's been around for a long time, and they have a lot of friends and connections in the industry. And there's a lot of people who feel um, they don't feel sorry for them, as in like, oh, poor you. It's like it's more like, dang, hope these guys catch a break sometime. Like
Hmm.
this is really it's frustrating watching our friends, because what's happened at Obsidian is a lot of people have come and gone, and then come back and then gone again and then come back again. It's sort of like a home, it's sort of like a home base, and then people will go out and the company will go out and do other projects for other people. So yeah, they're very well connected with a lot of people, and they're very well connected with a lot of industry insiders, and a lot of people have worked with these people in the past in and revere them quite well. So no, I'm not surprised at all that it's up for the award. Whether or not it gets it, I don't know if they have enough votes. But it's not surprising to see them there, and it's good to see them there because at least they're getting um, some stuff rolling with that, and it's kind of a lead up for what we'll see coming down the road.
Right. Well, I think I would be surprised if The Outer Worlds took it. I have if I were to cast my early prediction, I would guess that Death Stranding is going to take it. I'm glad to see Sekiro on there. It is definitely a contender, I think, for the title, but due to the difficulty barrier, I don't know if that one would take Game of the Year. But in terms of the actual quality of the game, the workmanship of the game, I mean, it was a fantastic piece of work. I don't know. I would guess Death Stranding's going to take it. Do you have any predictions on that early on?
Um, I don't know if Death Stranding will take it. So
Just
a
just
lot of
looking at it
reviews
compared
are
to
out now.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of reviews are out now, and overall, basically, it's like most everybody is sitting back saying, there's parts of this game that I really love, and then there's parts that drive me mental. There are parts that seem a little empty, but then that is part of the, like that's part of what he was going for. Like, he didn't do this because he put himself into a hole or pigeon himself into a box or into a corner or something like that. Um, he's done this with the game, because he's wanting to branch out and create new things, and you don't always know if new things work. Nobody knows. Like, if everybody knew all the time what new thing everybody wanted, the primary source of new games and new genres wouldn't be coming from single, you know, development teams, or not small indie development teams, and or mods and players themselves. It's like they the industry as a whole, as the corporate industry, the lifeless, soulless thing that is the gaming corporations as a whole, don't actually create things new very often. Very rarely do they ever manage to scrape anything new off the floor. Most of the time, it's just rehash, 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 rehash until the community or a genius comes along and says, but what about 3D environments? And then everybody goes nuts. And then, what about, deep role play? What about, all of this stuff. So very few times have we had corporations actually come out and do anything. Most of the stuff comes from the smaller people, or the budding geniuses that show
Hmm.
up and bring something new to the table.
Well, this is the
Um,
importance of the indie game industry, and
mhm.
that's why I'm glad to see an indie game like Control on the list.
Yeah,
And Outer Worlds, I mean, is not it's not indie. I don't know where you'd place it. Double A.
it's
Um,
double A. And I would say, and honestly, like, hear me out. I would say that Death Stranding is also double A. I don't think it's triple A. I it it had sort of a triple A budget, sort of, but not really. Not really when you compare the fact that he built the company and he built a lot of the hardware all at the same time. A triple A game, in the true sense of the word, is a game where you basically have your production of games on farm, to use an old rating term. It's on farm. You just keep on pumping stuff out, and you're able to put out you're able to put out stuff quite constantly. Um, The Witcher 3 was like the premier triple A title from that company. Witcher 2 was not a triple A game. That was like a double A game. And again, I would use for both Death Stranding and Outer Worlds, it's more along the lines of a Witcher 2 than it is a Witcher 3. It's showing what they have the concept for and where they want to go and where they want to start and how they want to get there, but they don't have it perfectly preserved and built in yet. Not yet. They need to do that. They'll do that in their next run. And so right now we're still kind of like on the precipice. We're on the one. They're on the ocean. They're on the beach of an ocean, right? And they're launching into the ocean. Enough metaphors. Basically, that's kind of how I see both of these games. So no, I'm not surprised that either one of them are on there, and I don't think either one of them necessarily deserves to win just because they're there. And that I think this year will be a really, really tight race between people and companies that are setting up for the future, not necessarily making the showcase of the year. Control's one of them, and then Death Stranding and Outer Worlds are both in that list of like, it's like these are just precursors to what could be the greatest, a really great game. Like, again, Mass Effect 1, not really that great. Like really great compared to most other games, but in the realm of the series, number 2 was the best by far, and number 3 was only marginally better than number 1, mostly because of technical issues, not because of storytelling.
Well, and hopefully that's how it goes. Like, hopefully the first game in your series is hopefully really good, but also the worst one in your series. Like, if you're going to make a series.
Yeah. And exactly. I'm not insulting anybody here. This is stuff that everybody knows when you're in the industry. It's like, yeah, you want your first game to do well, but also to be your worst technically.
Right.
Not story writing. You want that one to be like your best, or like encroaching on your best work as far as writing. And again, Origins was kind of like this. For Dragon Age, it's like that was the best as far as story writing goes.
Right. This is my hope for the Outer Worlds as well. The first game, great as it is, so much more potential for it.
Yeah, tons of potential, right?
So hopefully, maybe a game of the year, a nice game of the year award might help propel it into that direction.
Mm-hmm. And it gives you a feeling. It really does. It gives you this beautiful feeling between, like, the Fallout universe. All these different universes that it, it feels a little bit like Half-Life in a way. It feels a little bit like what's the other one with the darn whatever. It's just a really, really nice, just general, like, good feeling product.
All right, I want to thank Brent M. for the generous super chat. Thank you so much. No message associated with that one. There's a couple comments about Disco Elysium. Apparently that's a fantastic RPG. I haven't had the chance to try it myself, but James Fullerton and Manny Calavera are saying
I have seen
really
it.
Good.
I have heard about this, and I am, honest to God, really, really interested in this idea. I really like the concept of this game, and I think this is like, it's got so much potential to it. Right. I really like it.
JC the boy says you get to throw poop bombs in Death Stranding. If that's that's game of the year material, if you ask me. Well, I mean, to each their own, I suppose. All right. The other sort of small news we're going to get into today, Steam just announced some new features, and they've got one that I've been wanting for a long time: remote play together. Games that have local multiplayer. They've put in a system now where you can play local multiplayer games with your friends online. So it's called Remote Play Together. So I think that's a fantastic idea. It's going to be limited to Steam games and people on your Steam friends list, of course. But like a game like Cuphead, they've even got Mugman on this announcement page. A game like Cuphead that only had local multiplayer, and I mean, how many people do I know are into really hard boss rush platformers, let alone people that are going to come and sit in my basement with me and play this game. But chances are I'll have someone online who might want to play it with me. So there you go. They've also introduced Remote Play Anywhere. So basically, Steam streaming your Steam games to pretty much any device you want. You can get their app on Google Play, the App Store, Apple App Store, Raspberry Pi, if that's your jam. You connect it to your PC that's running Steam, and you can stream your games basically anywhere you want, anywhere in the world. So some interesting things, interesting timing with them announcing these right after Google Stadia launches.
Mm-hmm. This is them making, for anybody who doesn't understand what this is a power play by Valve. They are setting up to really take the hammer to the industry as a whole. They may have had a point, where they were just sitting around not doing very much, but all of this stuff that they're putting out right now is in direct competition with basically everybody. All of the changes to their store recently, all of the stuff that they're working on nonstop, this is them experimenting. Then this is them pushing themselves into new directions with new ideas. And I've heard that a lot of this is coming from some newer people at the company too. Again, fresh blood, right?
Yeah,
but
well, that's
I think they also have a really good veteran team that's doing really well as well. So.
Right. Yeah, they've also just recently updated their user interface, which I like, and they seem to have taken a page out of GOG's book with a lot of the sorting features and things like that. Not to overshadow GOG, but they might if they keep it up. But meanwhile, does Epic have a shopping cart yet? I've been away for a week. I haven't heard the massive news. Epic now has a shopping cart, so someone fill me in if that's actually changed. James Thomas, thank you so much for that super chat. He asks, does Steam Remote Play support LAN online games? Now, I guess my question would be, what if the game supports online play natively, what would you need the remote play for? Like, typically if you're playing a game on a local area network or with your friends online, if the game supports that natively, I don't see why it would need this service. Maybe I'm missing something. Please feel free to clarify your question in the chat if we're not fully understanding you there. But the way I understand, this is for games that only support local multiplayer, like so 2 people sitting at a computer playing together, or actually up to 4. It says up to 4 players can, and even more if you have a really good connection. So it's like couch multiplayer but online, which is something that I looked for a way to do this a few years ago. I was looking for a way to make this happen. I can't remember what game, but I wanted to play some local multiplayer game with Jamie or somebody, but couldn't figure out a way to do that. But now they have that natively built into Steam. All right. Speaking of Steam, let's talk about what's coming from Steam VR and Valve. A new Half-Life game announced. Half-Life, not 3, but Half-Life Alyx. Named presumably for the character of Alyx. I can't remember her last name. Somebody in the chat remind me. But she was a non-playable character in the first 2 Half-Life games. So, in a tweet today, and this had been, there were some leaks earlier this week, but then in a tweet today, Valve, not today. It was a couple days ago. Sorry.
Yeah.
Valve says, we're excited to unveil Half-Life Alyx, our flagship VR game, this Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Can't wait to share it with all of you. So that's tomorrow morning if you're in America, or North America, I should say, and then in Europe, or in other parts of the world, it's later in the day. But tomorrow, if you're curious about what this game is all about, they're going to be unveiling. I'm assuming this is going to be some kind of a live stream, but there's no link or anything here, just a graphic they put up with the Valve logo, the Steam VR logo, and the Half-Life little lambda icon. So that's happening tomorrow. So we'll definitely be paying attention to that.
Yeah,
to what
we may end up restreaming that on Twitch, just because this is really, really interesting what they're doing here. We may end up streaming it on YouTube too, but we have to double check the rules. So, but yeah, this is so again tomorrow we're gonna get a lot more info. They may have an additional surprise or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. We're still waiting on a big announcement for the Xbox for the next Xbox English is my friend. Oh my goodness. We're still waiting on Xbox announcement. The announcement that is coming most like I'm 90% now. That they're going to have a Steam app or form of an kind of like an app on the next Xbox system, so you can play a good chunk of your games on the Xbox via Steam, and that they are going to be cooperating with Steam far more, because what Microsoft has learned is that in order to be big, you have to be in as many places as you can. Yes, Xbox is your home, and you always want your kind of like your best stuff to be there, but it's like, the hardware and devices are not always the end all be all. This is what they thought last generation, and look where it got them. This next generation, it's products, games, content, and the ability to build stuff out with that. So they've got some stuff coming down the pipeline, and seriously, we really need this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We really do.
No, that's definitely some interesting innovation going on there. And speaking of, let's just James Thomas with the second super chat. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. You could have just put it in the normal chat if you wanted, but he was talking about games that are dead online and discontinued, like Crisis Wars, Command and Conquer Generals. Would they support? Would the Steam remote play together support those kinds of games? That's a very good question.
That is really, really, really a good question. And
if they're on Steam and they have local multiplayer, maybe.
Yeah. So if you can play it on Steam, there may be a way to work that in. But this is really this is really important for a lot of people. We're talking about games that don't have a life anymore, and this is what we're really going to get into with the game that I've been playing in the past few days, Kingdom Under Fire, is because this is a game that has a format and a gameplay style that is really unique on its own. There's very, very, very few, and I can't even think of any other games that mirror this exact system, where you have both a hero and you control troops, formations, interactions at the same time. And you go down into the character, not just controlling a hero unit that's walking around the map. You are that character. You're running around with it. You can run into armies. You can you pull all the moves. You do the combos. You can take out you can take out enemy forces if you're really, really good. Meanwhile, it's you can and I was showing Ash today this one fight where it's my character's fighting a boss.
We're getting into this later, right? We're getting into this later.
Okay. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
But yes, the point you're
these
making.
Types of games where they don't have a home and they're reliant on multiplayer or something like that. If there's a way that Steam can resurrect that multiplayer play for some of those games, that is really, really, really awesome.
And I will point out this too, because I have a Steam Link little device that you can use, so it hooks up. Connects my computer to my TV via Wi-Fi, so I can play my Steam games on in the living room with my controller. And what I discovered with that, and with Steam, actually not so much with the Steam Link, but just doing PC to PC Steam streaming,
Yeah.
I found I could actually use that to stream any app. So, there were times when I'd actually be doing audio editing, or some kind of stuff where I only have the software on my big PC, but I was doing it on my laptop, streaming through Steam, because there are ways to work around it, so you can like see your desktop and like stream your entire desktop, stream launch any program you want. So if it's a similar type of system, then you might be able to make it work with non-Steam games, or games that are not on Steam anymore, that kind of thing. Like, so an old game like Command & Conquer Generals or Crisis, like if you can launch it, you might be able to connect your friends to it, even if it's not a Steam game. I can't guarantee that.
I don't think that that's a thing. No.
Well, again, if it works similar
I think
to,
I think it's a good concept,
streaming.
but yeah.
Well, I only bring it up because I was able to.
Maybe, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it all depends if it lets, like, if they've locked it down so you can only use it within a Steam game, or if there's a way to break out of that. So, I guess the answer is maybe. So sorry we can't give you more definite answer on that. Anyway, let's get back to talking about Half-Life Alyx and what we know about that. So Ars Technica has an expose on this where they have a number of leaks that they have been given. So we'll go through these here. So the game's name, as revealed in a leaked Game Awards 2019 presentation and confirmed hours later by an official post from Valve, is Half-Life Alyx. Yes, so there was an interview that Jeff Keighley did where this game came up. The interview has not been released, but somehow the transcript of it got released.
Yeah.
So,
I know somebody's real happy when they see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but seriously, this is like when somebody saw this. I mean, there was no way that this was not going to leak. Like there was just no way that this just was not going to leak, because it's Half-Life 3 or some variant thereof.
Right.
And whether it's really good or terrible, one of those two, it's going to be something that everybody is going to want a piece of. Everybody's going to want a piece of this. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So it's like yeah. No. As soon as he mentioned that in the interview, it's like yeah. This isn't staying quiet. Yeah.
So it is again named for Alyx, and there's Alyx Vance. Thank you to you guys who posted that in the chat. So it's sounding like you're going to be playing as Alyx Vance, who was a non-playable character in the other games, as I mentioned. It is coming to PC virtual reality systems.
Mm-hmm.
And the leak that Ars Technica has includes a revised release window of March 2020. Now, we had been told this is going to be a pillar or a flagship VR game from Valve, which they announced a while back that there were going to be 3 of these that they were working on, and we were told to expect one by the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Sounds like this is actually getting pushed back to March 2020. Of course, it could always change due to a phenomenon that fans call Valve time. You never know. Anyway, this is a prequel. Actually, it takes place between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2.
Yes. Now, and this is brilliant, right? There's no way that they could make a Half-Life 3 tomorrow and put it out. Like, I'm not talking about like rushing on it. I'm talking about like you just can't put out a Half-Life game right now. A Half-Life 3 game right now. If you put out a Half-Life 3 game, people will crucify it, burn it down, or worship it as the second coming of chocolate sauce. It's like there is no point at which you could have a successful launch that's not mired in absolute insanity from every perspective that you possibly think of. It's just not going to work. And this is why they were caught in a hole with this, because if they do Half-Life 3, it's not going to be what is expected by anybody. So what you have to do, and what you really have to do, is you have to reintroduce the game, the world, and the IP back into the audience, not just for the people who are anticipating it, but for the people who, and I hate saying this because it makes me feel so old, for the people who weren't even alive when the first game and the second game was made, who are now avid gamers, sometimes really big streamers. Like good lord, it's just too much. And so this is brilliant. This is a brilliant move. They're doing a Half-Life intermittent story using new tech in a new way that's going to open the door to resetting expectations for Half-Life 3 or some variant thereof. So this is a brilliant move. They're doing this first. This is going to creak the door open and allow people to start looking in, getting an idea, start to kind of relive the thing. If they were to follow this up with a game a year, 2 years down the road, maybe 3, that is a re-release of Half-Life 1 and 2 in a brand new engine. This is something, and kind of like the story retold, more details, more data, more information, same story, but just more of it, more things to learn, more secrets to uncover. If you were to do that and do that right, then yeah, baby, you got yourself. Not only do you have yourself an open door to then do Half-Life 3 properly, which again, and I'm getting into like what, 6 years off here, but if this has been a part of their plan from like say 2 or 3 years ago, and they started planning this out, then all of this stuff might be a lot closer than we expect. Maybe a Half-Life 1 and 2 remastered is coming on the next console generation. Now think about that crazy thing. Not just obviously for PC as well as the next consoles, but I mean just think about the potential. You have a Half-Life 1 and 2 remastered, all new stuff, new interesting details, new interesting lore bits, and very, very, very interesting, very well done. It's a strong possibility. It's a very strong possibility. That this has been in the cards now for a while for them, thinking on how they're going to redo this. So yeah, we'll see where this leads.
Mm-hmm.
And now none of that is official spoilers. That's just Saab thinking outside of his brain. So
Thinking outside of his brain.
Yeah, well, via the cloud technology. It's really cool. You can do basically anything with it. It's amazing.
All right. So other things we know about this game: it's a full single player campaign of brand new content. There's the Ars Technica's sources can't confirm how long the game will take to beat, though, and they confirm it will be played from the perspective of Alyx Vance, a character introduced in Half-Life 2. Instead, we've already talked about that part. I jumped ahead of the article. All right. So, as far as in-game mechanics, of course, it's going to be very different, being in VR instead of a normal, gaming platform title. So, a data leak from Valve's Source 2 game engine, uncovered in September by Valve News Network, pointed to a new control system labeled as the Gravity Gloves. Gravity Gloves. Now, you may recognize that as similar to the Gravity Gun from Half-Life 2. And multiple sources have confirmed that this is a major control system in Half-Life Alyx. So you can think of them as like magnet gloves. They let players magically point to and attract distant items to your hands. So you can suck things from across the room or off the floor right into your hands. And this is supposedly a spiritual successor to Half-Life 2's Gravity Gun in terms of revolving around realistic physics. However, the iconic crowbar is apparently not going to be making a reappearance. The sources mentioned that the virtual crowbar was tested at one point in the game's multi-year development, but was eventually scrapped. I wonder why they would scrap that. It can't be that difficult of a mechanic to implement, I wouldn't think.
It was back in the day, so yeah.
Even back in the day, it was just a melee weapon that you swung. But yeah, I mean, it depends what they want to do with it. If you want to be able to swing it every which way and be able to bash things in the game, I suppose that might be fairly development intensive. But anyway, it's too bad that the crowbar's not making a return. I'm sure I'm sure they'll put in some kind of jokes or Easter egg references to it, but it's not going to be there as a weapon. So, there you go. Half-Life Alyx. That is pretty much all we know as far as leaks. Now you said you'd had some leaks aside, but there's nothing additional that you can tell us about this that you're aware of, is there?
Well, so again, Half-Life 3 got stuck into like this development hell of it's like everything that they tried, it came out bad. It didn't come out okay or pretty good. It came out bad. Everything that they tried, and they wanted to innovate with this title, but they were working on the Steam platform, they were working on this all this other stuff, and it just never, like, I don't know how to say it. The stars never aligned for it. Every time they thought they had a new idea or a new concept, um, somebody else either beat them to it, or it just wasn't moving along right, just didn't have the right team to put together. And so they started to outsource it to a couple of different companies who had pitches and ideas that they were really interested in working on. And again, those ones, most of them just came out bad. There were a few decent ones, like there were a few pretty good ones, but they didn't want to do pretty good. They wanted to like wow the socks off of people. And at no point was it like just something that really fit. um and I, again, I don't think VR is the space for this, but I'm not, I don't have huge high hopes for this.
Well, that was the
But
next point I was going to bring up,
yeah.
is that I almost felt like this was kind of a Diablo Immortal situation, like
Hmm.
really changing the platform of the game. Is this going to really? It's definitely not going to appeal to as wide of an audience as they would necessarily like. I
Hmm.
mean, VR is expensive. It's largely experimental still at this point. I mean, there's some good titles, but a lot of it's still finding its footing as in terms of being a gaming platform. Such that I enjoy watching YouTubers and streamers playing stuff in VR, but it doesn't ever look like something I'm gonna run out and grab myself. Right? It's it's still it still seems to be trying to get its feet under it. And so now I'm sure that Valve is going to innovate with this. This will probably be a title that pushes the boundaries of what VR can do. If they're attaching the Half-Life name to it, they've got to have a lot of confidence in this product, I would think,
Hmm.
if they've got any brain cells in their heads whatsoever. But the fact that it is VR exclusive, and Terror K was asking that in the chat, yeah, this is a VR exclusive. Um, it's going to be built for those mechanics, for that control scheme. Uh, it's not going to have as wide of an appeal, and I wonder if that's going to disappoint some massive Half-Life fans, or if it's going to be detrimental to the success, or will it push the sales of their VR systems? But if so, how much? Like, what do you were saying you don't think that VR is the space for this, and that's kind of
It's mostly my personal opinion. It's like it's VR is one of these things where I'm like, I haven't gotten into it all the way. Um, I really like the general idea and the general concept, and I really do want to, you know, use it and kind of get into it. But it's just like it's 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 just one of those things that just always feel like me. I don't really know. if this is what I want to do, and that's the kind of thing, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this
like
it's expensive. You need a big space to to do it in, and the game selection on it is not what you can get with
mhm.
just normal PC or console gaming. So it's I don't know. It hasn't appealed to me very much thus far.
Yeah, but again, it's like we just haven't seen the right title. Like if I were to pick up VR tomorrow, the thing I would spend like 99% of my time on the VR doing would be Saber Beat.
Beat Saber.
And it's like do I really want to spend that much money for one game? For
Well, exactly.
just
That's
one
that's
game.
that's the point it's at right now.
And so yeah, that's kind of the point where it's like I don't think this is what I want to spend my money on.
Yeah, you have to
Um,
really love Job Simulator to
mhm.
to really have it be worthwhile. But maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the one that will push it to being more mainstream. We'll see. On the, I mean, one good thing is this definitely shows us that there's life in the Half-Life franchise. But then again, I have to ask, like, if it's been 12 years since the last Half-Life game, and if you've got an idea for a decent game for a story set in the Half-Life universe, why not just make it an ordinary PC or or console game? I guess it would be PC. Do Valve's games go to console? I never even thought about that. But
Um, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the original Half-Life games went to consoles.
hmm,
I mean, I'm really really sure, but that was also before they had Steam. Really, that was really really before that
that's true.
they had
Yeah, that is true.
Steam's team.
So yeah, why not just make it a regular game that you can play on your
Mhm.
PC and maybe have a VR variant of it to try and push those sales.
Mhm.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, hopefully there is life in the Half-Life franchise. I would like to see Valve get back to producing more games. I would love to see a Portal 3. I mean, if you're not going to do it yourself, Valve, sell the IP to somebody who will.
Yeah, no, and I think what we've got going here is a step in the right direction, and
hmm
we do have new stuff coming. So
But the most important part of all of this, of course, as JC the boy points out, is that you said Saber Beat instead of Beat Saber, and so you will be relentlessly mocked for that for the rest of your days. But I don't think we can actually talk about beating your saber on YouTube, so you might
well,
want to be careful with that.
that's what I was trying to avoid. We got all these new rules with YouTube and stuff, and I'm trying so hard to like,
Are you telling me you said it backwards deliberately?
yes, because I don't
What's
want
the
to
difference between saying saber beat or saying beat saber?
beat Saber. You beating your
Yeah, no,
Saber. Like,
I get
there's
that, but
so
it
many
sounds worse the way
innuendos that I can do off the top of my
it
head.
sounds worse the way you said it. Anyway, this is derailed. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, anyways, this I mean, and this really really came in at a weird time. So the other game that's out now is Kingdom Under Fire 2. We briefly talked about it, but here we go. So Kingdom Under Fire is this concept where you have a hero unit and you run around on a field, you're commanding troops, and you're literally commanding troops. You have everything, and because this is a fantasy world, you have everything from flying gunships, like helium balloon filled things, firing rockets down on infantry, archers, musketmen, mortarmen, sappers, cavalry. Did I say cavalry? You got cavalry in there. You've got big giant beasts, everything from like a giant scorpion. You've got other crazy critters. Um, you've got orcs, you've got elves, you've got humans, you've got dwarfs, like literally everything. There's everything in this game, and you're controlling them. You're setting them up to do unique things where like you set up a line of soldiers, like big long, like Napoleonic war lines and lines and lines of soldiers that are slowly walking through the field, and they can encompass enemies and destroy them. And you can send in cavalry units to, I said cavalry wrong, cavalry units. You can send them in, swing in from behind, take out archers in the back, take out support units in the back. You've got mages and wizards and casters, and you summon fireballs down from the sky. You're doing all of this, and you're a dude on the in the battlefield, and you can run up to an area and just start laying waste to them, just like Dynasty Warriors. It's like, this is a cool game. This was an awesome game. Unfortunately, this game has been being worked on for 15 years. And I'm not kidding. This game has been in development for 15 bloody years. Some of the units and some of the stuff are very, very similar to the original game that came out on the Xbox. I don't know if it was on PlayStation, but I know it was on the Xbox. Solid game. Really loved it. On top of this just general, really cool, awesome mix, they have this soundtrack that's bloody amazing. It's like hard, like rock metal, like really heavy metal, and you're leading, you're running down infantry with mounted units and all this stuff, and it's just like it fits for some reason. It really fits, and it fits so well, and you're like, holy crap, this is amazing. And the main character. You can have classes. There's like 7 classes in total. You can be a berserker, spell sword, a gunner, or gunslinger. I can't remember. I think it's gunslinger, elemental, and a ranger. 5 classes right now. Sorry, not 7. 5 classes. And you're doing all of this. You kind of like you run your group. Now, it was in development hell for 15 years. It had a brief, stepped out very briefly in Korea and in Russia, and it bombed there really badly. They had built it sort of like an MMO. It's kind of like an MMO light. You have a huge, you've got a couple of field maps that you can go to, and then you have a couple of big capital cities that you can go to, and that you can run around and talk with people and dance and duel and all that kind of stuff. But where it really excels is the missions, and you're doing these missions, and you have you're marching out into this area, and you're taking control over this stuff. That's not PvP enabled, but you can do PvP and other stuff like that. So it came out. Now, mind you, it when it was being built and when it was being worked on, it was like when they first announced it, this thing was like magical. It was like so far ahead of its time. This came out in, you got to think about this. This came out when Vanilla WoW came out originally the first time. And it's been 15 years. I really got to lay that down. It's been 15 years in development. And it was not good development time. It was okay, but it was not great development time, and it was not good development time. So there's lots of aspects within the game that are kind of bad and really old and kind of difficult, but it's the only game of its type. This is the only game where you can control these units, send them in, clash them into giant battles. And I'm talking giant battles. You can have hundreds upon hundreds of armies on the screen at any given time. There's raids in this. I haven't gotten into the raids yet. There's 8-man raids, there's 4-man groups, and then there's 16-man raids, which I believe you send armies in. So you're on the map with your army, and then 15 other people are also on that map with their armies, and you're fighting monsters that are the size of like cities. And you're doing this with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of melee units under your control, plus all of the other people. So again, this sounds really amazing, but because it's so old, it has kind of a fairly dated graphical look to it. Because it had spent so long being a pay-to-win cash shop type game, which was so you had to buy into it, but then it had an atrocious system for monetization. It was horrendous. It was nightmarish. It was disgusting. One of the worst things I've ever seen. But when they brought it and did global release, they said none of that. No, none of that. So we are back to basics. You buy the game, that's it. They do have a diamond shop for costumes. That's it. Costumes and mounts, I think. That is the only thing that you spend diamonds on. They have qubits, which some people are confusing with diamonds. They're both small little, gem-like looking things, but qubits are earned through gameplay. You cannot buy them, and you use them to do a whole bunch of different stuff in the game. It's basically like you have your gold that you use for like crafting, buying items, and building up, like improving your armor and your gear and stuff like that. And then the qubits are for like directly improving your military. So they've kind of separated it out from, like, I would have said, like, I would have renamed them leadership points, so that you use the leadership points to buy like skill. You can use it to buy skills. You can use it to buy a whole bunch of other stuff. But there's no pay to win in this game. You get what you pay for. There's no random chance. There's no nothing like that. You buy what you want. You're given items where you open them up and you get a choice of what you want, and you pick what you want, and boom, done. That's it. They used to be randomized. All of that stuff, everything that you see, used to be random and bizarre and frankly stupid. But they've changed all that. They've walked away from that completely. It's under new hands now, and they've said absolutely no pay to win. Hopefully, if the game does well and it gets a following, if it gets a following, it might be worth it. It's worth it for me. And if you're a fan of this type of game, if you really like Dynasty Warriors, and you really like just running into just humongous battles and just going nuts, or if you like sitting up and controlling units, and like each unit has a set of different abilities. So you can have your spearmen form lines, and then you can have another unit taunt, like, or redirect cavalry units to come running into your spear line and just slaughter them all. You can micromanage and control your cavalry to come around, sweep around behind them, and slam into the spearmen from behind. You can have them, take out other sensitive units. Then you can also go down there yourself and do that all yourself. So this is a cool game. It is not for everybody. I just put it out there right now. Considering the age of the game, considering the state of the game, and how much garbage it's gone through, this is not going to be a game for most people. You have to be a pretty decent fan of MMOs. You have to be pretty decent with, like, wanting to, like, learn a lot of stuff. There is about um, there's about 500 skills in the game. Skills, as in, like, skills that your individual units use. Each unit uses between about four actives, and then they can have about 4 to 5 passives, I think. And there's 500 of these things. So there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of in-depth stuff. It's fairly confusing, even coming from somebody who played the game and remembers the original very, very distinctly. There was 2 original games. There was the original Kingdom Under Fire and then Kingdom Under Fire Mercenaries. And both of those games, great, love them. Still on my top 10 list of, like, old school games. Now, the good thing is there's 3 different packages that you can get when you're buying this game. You can get the basic package, which is I think it's about $25 American. You can get the middle package, which is about $60 American, and then you can get the God tier package, which is $100 American. And mostly what you're getting is costumes. You're getting 1 unit pack in there. So the units, it's kind of it's a decent unit. It carries you for, like, the first 10 levels, and then it starts to not be that great. So really, in all honesty, you don't have to buy these units. So if you want to experiment with it, if you want to give it a shot, it's out on Steam today, I believe. Believe it came out today. Yeah, it's come out today. So $40 Canadian. I think it's about $25 American. This is, you could pick up the basic package with that. The bigger package obviously is going to be a lot more. But it's pretty good. I really like the concept of this. It's I really wish this had come out 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, right? I really wish that this had come out like in that time because it would have been amazing. It would have been so different and so unique. I hope that it does good enough that it spawns another one. I really, really, really hope that it comes out. Kingdom Under Fire 2. I hope it does good enough that they can get a second game out. The reviews on Steam are mostly bad. Sorry, it's mixed right now, but it's most like almost all of the negative reviews are negative because they say that oh it's a pay to win thing. You have to buy these diamond thingies and use them to power yourself up. That is 100% not true. So every single review that's you see that says that, it's like just put it past you. But it is an old game, so if you're not a fan of like old dated graphics from a decade ago, don't even bother. Like if you really can't stand that, don't even bother. Watch some YouTube videos on it. Maybe it'll catch your interest. But yeah,
And it's a
it,
very technical, very
it's a yeah
complicated RTS game, right? So
yeah
that
it's
immediately
an
is
art.
not
Yeah,
my thing, but like I can see why you would enjoy that. You love getting into that nitty gritty of
yeah,
the
it's like
numbers and
micromanaging everything,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you do it in real time, and the aesthetic is just good for it. It's there's a lot of minor problems with it, but if this is something that interests you generally, look it up because it's honestly it's got some potential. But it's definitely not going to be game of the year. It's not even going to be my game of the year. It's good. This is basically what this has been. Is this has been very cathartic. I've been able to finally play something that I've been waiting over a decade for. I could finally play it. I bought the biggest version of it because I put in probably about 500 hours into both of the first games because it was so good. I replayed and replayed and replayed them because it was just something that I couldn't get from anywhere else. And it was never on the PC, so it was something that I was like, yeah, this is something that I'm going to throw money on, mostly because of how much I played it in the past. I played it now for like 2 days straight, and I got to say, I'm pretty happy with it. But my taste in this is not for everybody else. This is definitely one of these types of games where it's like, be cautious.
It seems like it has a very niche appeal.
It is extremely
Yeah.
niche game. But the potential for a new genre from this type of thing is something that I've really hoped for many years that could get kickstarted again because I like this concept. I like this idea. I think it's different. I think it's unique, and I don't think we have enough games of it.
Battle
So, anyways,
Royale where you control entire armies. 100
yeah,
armies
basically,
enter a field.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so yeah, yeah. So if you think it's interesting, I'm probably going to stream it sometime tomorrow, doing some potentially doing some of this bigger content, just so people can kind of see what's going on. It's yeah. I'm kind of waiting until they fix some of these technical issues that they have. It's not a bad launch. It's just kind of like you get disconnected every once in a while, and um,
Just like the days of dial
I've
up.
been disconnected 3 times in the past 2 days, which I immediately relog on for. And I had one mission that crapped out because it bugged out, which actually saved me a whole headache because I needed to do that one with a group with a big party, and I wasn't aware that I had to. Just because it was flying through the stuff, and I was just like, team up with people. I'm worth like 5 people. I don't need no people. So then I went up there and went like, oh, yeah, I need people for this. This is I could do it, but it would be like an hour of doing something extremely repetitive, and I had no interest in that. So I was like, no, I'm gonna back out. And one other person I've seen complained that one of their missions crapped out on them. And I lost them like an hour of progress or something like that. That's not fun, but it's only happened twice. I'm currently in a small guildish that I just picked because of bonuses and whatnot. Um, um, it seems like a good one, so I'm going to give it a kind of a go because it's really not something that very many people are into. Like, the server population is low right now on both servers, and there's only 2 servers, one for EU, one for North America. They're both really low. I don't think, like, it's sad when I think about it. I'm like, I'm betting this is probably not going to last more than probably like a year or two. Like, I give this like 2 years probably. But if it does well, and if it gets a decent group and people start to support it, more and more, then I think it does have that potential. But more so than just being a good game, I hope it has the potential to show that if you do it right, then more people will come and play this type of thing. So that's that. And this is, like I said, very cathartic, because this is something that I missed. It's like a movie that you were anticipating to see. I was dying to watch the movie Witchblade. It had been bought, it had been prepped, the script had been written, it had movie posters created, and then it just died. And then it got pushed back like 2 or 3 times, and then it just died. And it's like, you're just like, oh man, that's my favorite comic book. It's not my favorite comic book because of reasons people assume. It's my favorite comic book because I knew the creator, and he passed away, unfortunately. And it was really sucky. He died of cancer pretty young, like really young. He was in his 30s when he passed away. And but his work on that, on yeah, the anime is good. It's not the same, like, it's not the same concept. It's a decent anime. It's like a really good anime, and the English version is like really, really good. But the comic and his particular art style is what I really, really loved, and I really, really respected. And like I said, I met him a couple times, knew him a little bit. He was a great guy. Really liked him. Felt really sorry for his family, but yeah, it's one of those moments where it's like I really like that, and never got to see that movie. This game, had been hoping and praying for it. I think a few years ago, like early on when we were doing the podcast, I talked about this originally, and I was like, yeah, it basically got canned now, and there's no hope of this thing coming out. And then out of the blue, I hadn't looked for this at all, and somebody like, hey, dude, this game's coming out. And I was like, what? Really? So I raced home on the 14th to buy it, because I was like, oh my God, it's out. I can't believe it. So I raced home, bought it on the early access thing, which is on a different launcher, and happy with it. Really happy with it. I'm so happy with it that I'm probably going to buy the cheap version on Steam, just so that I can have it on the Steam client as well, or give away a copy or two. But speaking of that, we are going to be doing some giveaways. We're going to be doing a lot more giveaways. So if you're interested in giveaways, we're going to be ramping this up. And we're going to be ramping this up. So it's going to be kind of cool. And yeah, we might end up doing a giveaway with this, actually. That's something that kind of is a good idea. All right. But anyway, sorry, I rambled on that. We have another... Oh dear. What was that other story that we...
Well, just we're going to talk about Google Stadia in a minute. We're also I'm going to give my impressions of Jedi Fallen Order. But first, I just want to say you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. Also, got to take a moment here to plug our awesome sponsor, Toink Toys. You can find the link to them in the description below. It is an affiliate link. You use that link to visit the website, and then if you choose to purchase anything, we get a little kickback from that. It's a way you can support the channel. But they have great stuff there too. And if you are looking to do your holiday Christmas shopping for that nerdy person in your life, All Toink Toys has awesome collectibles, costumes, games, and more. One of the things they have is something called look-see boxes, which are kind of like mystery boxes that you unpack, but they basically tell you what's in them.
Yeah, you as the buyer know exactly what's in them, right?
And so it's not like it's not like a loot box kind of a thing. But one of the deals they have on right now is for those of you who have avid Harry Potter fans in your life, the Harry Potter look-see boxes, each of which contain 7 Harry Potter themed gifts, including an embossed, embroidered writing pads. Debossed cover house journal, a magnet, trinket trays. Also, they have a miniature porcelain teapot, and comes with a mug and a saucer. Is that what those are called? Like a little plate.
Yeah, tea
I'm not a
saucer,
tea
right?
person.
Yeah, it's a tea
it's a little
saucer.
tea set.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other stuff. You can check it out as well. But there's 4 of them. One for each of the Hogwarts houses: Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw. So if you're looking for a gift for the Harry Potter fan in your life, find out what their favorite of those 4 houses are.
And this is the original Harry Potter. This is not the new, just atrocious movies. The new ones that have come out, they're just terrible.
Not the
God.
Well, this is the Harry Potter.
Original trilogy. Or sorry, not trilogy. Original 7
octuplogy, whatever it was.
Octuplogy. Yeah,
the 7th movie was in 2 parts.
Not
so it's like
not the recent 2 movies.
The Fantastic Beasts. No, it's not that.
Yeah.
No, this is actual Harry Potter.
Yeah, good God, those are terrible, eh?
I haven't seen them. I have no idea.
I watched one and I was really disappointed. I was like, wow, that's not. I don't know what's gone on here, but somehow her writing kind of took a nosedive. I don't know. Maybe it was the I don't know. But no, seriously, this is we like this company. It is an affiliate link. They're not actually paying us to tell you this stuff.
No, but, so just if you want to. If it was a way you can support the channel, and also if you
also pick up some stuff,
you can Christmas is coming up. I'm sure you have nerdy people in your life who and there's tons of other stuff there, like all kinds of gaming IPs, TV shows, sci-fi, fantasy. So click the link, check it out, and if you see something you like or that someone would like for Christmas, you'll have it right there. Oh, and free shipping in the continental United States. I should say that too.
That's
all right.
That's a good thing.
But enough, Sean, because I hate doing these. I hate doing these reads, but I mean, we do have to try and support the channel somehow. All right, let's talk about the Google Stadia launch. It's been rough. Apparently, it's been pretty rough, and there's all kinds of you can find all kinds of information about it out there. A lot of people are covering this. Something that caught my eye were a pair of articles in Forbes by Paul Tassi. And in one, he discusses that he gives his technical review, and then in the other, he goes into detail about why he doesn't even think this business model makes sense for them. So, in his article, Google Stadia Launch Review, A Technical Conceptual Disaster, he says, I am genuinely amazed with how shockingly bad Stadia has performed at my home over the course of many sessions. For context, I mostly played Stadia on the Review Unit Chromecast Ultra on my TV, with a few trials on my desktop PC browser. My internet is solid, probably better than most people's with wireless speeds, ranging between 200 and 350 Mbps, depending on how the wind blows. Google's own Stadia speed check tool seems to think I am well over the requirement to effectively stream 4K games. Well, he says something went very wrong. Across all the test titles I played, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Mortal Kombat 11, Destiny 2, Guilt, and Red Dead Redemption 2, I would get periodic stuttering issues with massive resolution and frame drops. Not all the time, but enough to be noticed frequently and disrupt gameplay. I fell off ledges in Tomb Raider because of lag. I flat out lost Mortal Kombat fights I would have won otherwise. I died to Destiny enemies I would roast with ease on any other platform. And he says elsewhere in this article he's got like something like 1,500 hours in Destiny 2. Like he's no new.
Yeah, no, I saw somebody playing the Mortal Kombat on there, and it was like they were in some kind of like time slow, where the game was running at 50% of its normal speed.
So streaming issues when this technology literally does one thing. It streams games, and it's having trouble doing that one thing. That's unfortunate. And latency, like, yeah, I mean, it. How are you supposed to? This guy's got really good internet. How are you? And it basically is well above the recommended requirements, and yet he's having trouble playing these games. Makes you wonder, like, what this thing was not ready for prime time if that's the issue. And he also says even when it is working normally, it's still just a bit off from how a normal console game would feel. It might just be microseconds we're talking about. And while I didn't notice it much in Mortal Kombat or Tomb Raider, I could feel it in Destiny 2, which I have sunk 1,200 hours into on console.
Mm-hmm.
So his conclusion is it's passable, certainly, but not anything I would voluntarily choose over PS4 or Xbox. Same goes with the visuals. Resolution is just a little bit worse. The HDR a little bit less bright and sharp. Workable, but worse than hardware-based alternatives. And then he goes on to talk about how he, because he was communicating with Google about all this, and they recommended they knock his performance settings down to balanced instead of 4K. But, the 4K streaming is what the Stadia Pro subscription is paying to access. So that seems kind of a ridiculous solution. And plus it didn't help. He even still got stuttering when he bumped it down to the lowest performance setting. So technical problems galore. Plus, I mean, it just didn't launch with that many games. It was originally going to launch with 12, and like at the last minute, they bumped that up. They added 10 more games.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And you have to rebuy these.
That's the
which is just mental. It's just meant. Why would you do this? Who is this for? We've had this discussion before when they originally announced it. We sat back and said, who is this advertising to? As far as I can tell, this is advertising to really rich people who already have several of these devices at home and don't really want or need yet another one. And the funny thing is like, I encountered somebody who bought it the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, about the Stadia." I'm like, "Don't you have like a really good computer?" It's like, "Yeah." Like, don't you also have both an Xbox and a PlayStation? He goes, "Yeah." And a Switch? Yeah. And you've got like $1,000 phone? Yeah. Why did you buy a Google? Why did you buy the Stadia? It's like, I don't really know other than to just buy it. It's like, whoa, okay, well, apparently that's the audience. The audience for this game, heard it here first, is people who just have way too much money that they don't know what to do with and just buy stuff on impulse. That's apparently who they're selling this to. Because the service doesn't work. It's kind of crap. And again, like they have some conceptual games in the works, but none of them came out at launch. None of them, and none of the technology that this program is really, really, really supposed to showcase through this platform. None of that stuff is available. Like and for this, for the life of me, I don't understand why. Like, I really don't understand why. Why they would do this. Now, as far as the technical issues, I do understand what's going on with most of these, and most of these it's local ISP routers, not green flagging these operations, and or having incorrect channels and hyperways set up properly to not to speed it along faster, but to like open up the doors to like kind of get the stuff, so you don't have to stop check it like 5 times before it gets to its location, which is what most online games, any game that requires internet connection, constantly runs into for the first like month or two, is usually a really big problem. So yeah, there's that, and that's that's normal. Like, that's just living that's just living everyday life
right
when it comes to online games. But still, just in general, it's like I have no idea who they were aiming this for, why they were doing this, or whatever. they're going to stick with it probably until they get a couple of their big titles out that actually utilize this. But this was just poorly launched in every way, shape, and form. They should really fire the person who was in control of like deciding when they were going to launch it, how they were going to launch it. Here's what I would have done as them. I would have shipped out. I would have shipped out the devices ages ago to anybody who pre-ordered at probably half of the current cost that they're selling it for. It would have been like a special like pre-order thing, and you get in-game credits to get access to buy these titles if you log in and you do this like they just set up a kind of a bland game where it's you're basically testing the system, and it's not there to entertain you. It's there to like if you do this test, anywhere between you run this test for 15-20 minutes a day for 5 to 10 days a month. We're going to give you an extra $10 or $20 in credit coming up to this, and then for the next like couple of months this would have run. And so people would have been logging on, using this program, allowing them to work out the kinks, working out the latency bugs and the latency issues, and all the while you're saving yourself up, like literally you're saving yourself up a couple $100 worth of in-game credits. And then that would have been like, so they would have basically broke even on that particular aspect of the marketing. But then you would have gotten it into these people's hands. You would have been able to work on the infrastructure of the latency before you even launched an actual game with it. That's what you should have done. But don't ask the person whose main job it is to come up with solutions for this stuff. No, just stick with your analysts. They know everything really, really well. Solid launch there, Google. Yeah. Solid launch. Big thumbs up. Bunch of idiots.
Yes, well, it seems like they pulled a Fallout 76. This should have been a free beta.
Yeah. Like I said, should essentially free beta. They said, hey, if you participate in this beta 10 days a month for the next like 6 months or whatever, we're going to give you hundreds of dollars in free stuff.
Right.
And that would have fixed a lot of problems, but my God, was this poorly done and poorly implemented.
Well, it's a disaster. The next question to ask is, who is this even for? Paul Tassi has a second article saying, assuming Google Stadia works perfectly, the model simply does not. So even if you get it working well, who's the audience for this service? Google's main pitch is that you are saving on hardware costs because Stadia is entirely in the cloud, but you're still paying for the service, plus you're paying for the games, plus you're bound by the limitations of your internet. There is a free version of this coming, but he says, speaking from the perspective of an avid gamer, I am unclear when I would want to use Stadia outside of a very few select instances. So few that I don't think it would be worth having at all. I mean, 100%. Presumably most your avid gamers, they already have their hardware and their technology. At this point, I mean, and at even if they for some reason don't, like when I was broke and couldn't afford a gaming computer, would this be a viable option? Well, maybe. But if it's not working properly, I don't know. It doesn't seem like. It seems like if this is a hobby that I really value, if I'm an avid gamer, I'm going to want to use I'm going to have the best experience with it, right? And especially if you're playing online, you don't want any of that latency. Mm-hmm. But he says the problem is the fact that there are 3 barriers to entry for almost all games. I have to pay a monthly subscription to have access to the tier of streaming that is at least close to on par with consoles. And he points out they're actually a bit below in most instances. I then have to rebuy games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Borderlands 3 that I already own, and I want to play in multiple locations free of my console or PC. But even once I do that, these games do not have cross saves, so you're starting over again.
Yeah, brilliant. Another brilliant move.
To avoid this situation, I would have to be choosing to play a new game from the very start on Stadia over my other options. Say Stadia gets Cyberpunk 2077 at launch. I then have to choose to make Stadia my main place to play through that game, which at this point seems like a very bad decision given the quality and latency issues. I am trading visual fidelity and reliability for the ability to hop screens and avoid download times. For a game like Cyberpunk, I think you are not going to find core gamers that are going to pick Stadia over a traditional console or PC.
Yeah, for the love of all that is holy, do not buy Cyberpunk 2077 for the Stadia. Just don't. It's going to be the worst experience. I mean, maybe they'll have sorted out a lot of the bugs, and if you do like a stealth, non-violent run through it, that might work. But as far as what we're hearing, as far as what we're seeing, I think it's going to be probably about a year before they iron out most of the technical issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now they may get rid of like some of the latency issues like early on, but all of these other issues that are apparently just constantly happening, yeah, don't hold your breath on any of that stuff because that's just not gonna.
Now those are your core gamers, your avid gamers, the kinds of people that listen to this podcast. What about the non-gamers or more casual, really casual gamers who, people who are like, well, maybe I want to try some video games in my spare time, and maybe this Stadia thing is a way to get started with that. Paul says, that idea has never made sense to me from the start. Yes, you are eliminating the need to buy expensive consoles, but when 95% of the games offered on the service are still fully priced titles that range from $30 to $60, I have no idea how you're suddenly going to convince non-gamers, or at best, free-to-play mobile gamers to pay for that. Stadia could work if it was what people originally assumed it was going to be, Netflix for games. You pay $10 a month, and Google has worked out some deal to get you dozens of free big-name games that you can access through streaming service anywhere, somewhat similar to how Xbox Game Pass works. Combine that with cross-save with other platforms, and yes, I would 100% subscribe to Stadia Pro and be able to hop around with my save files and alternate copies of games. So I could play them in a variety of locations, from hotel TVs to my phone, but we are very, very far from that.
Yeah.
So that's his take. My take on it is, it seems like that I would look at this if I just did not have the money for hardware. And I suppose that, that's, some people who are more in that position, but they love games, but can't necessarily afford the hardware. This might appeal to them. This would have probably appealed to me, when I was in that situation. But if it's not a good experience, it's got to be a really good experience still. If they're not able to deliver that experience, then I would probably just get an extra job and try to save up for a computer or a console rather than try and limp through on the streaming service where you don't even own your games anyway. You have to pay for them, but you don't actually own them. And then the other thing to consider is how many Google projects like this have been abandoned a few years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens, you could lose out on a massive game library. And I don't know if they'd legally have to give you some recourse for that, but that is a possibility.
No, I think it's like with any of the games on Google Play that are suddenly taken offline. All the money that you spend on it, all the time you spend on it, all the progress that you spend on it, it's all gone. It's all gone.
Yeah, so
it's all gone.
I don't know. It's just not looking like a very good option right now, out of the gate.
Nope. For the love of all that is holy, don't get this thing at least not yet. At least not yet. And again, I don't know what they were thinking. Good Lord.
You can find other things online about it. They were saying, a few people posted in the chat. Nexus Games did they did a thing about the controller. Apparently the controller is garbage. Sorry, I can't see the message right now for some reason.
Yeah, no. The controller is pretty bad. It's pretty rough. It's too light. It's too small. It's too thin. It's too frail. It's not sturdy. I've been
Sorry,
hearing all that stuff.
Gamer Nexus made a video opening one of the controllers. There's the message from Azurgan. Thank you for that. Sorry, I couldn't find. I had to scroll way up to find the message there. So yeah, lots of information if you want more about that. But that's all that we have to say about it. All right. But on to better things. On to a more positive review. For the last bit here, I'm going to talk about my impressions of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And I've been thinking about Star Wars a lot lately. The new movie's coming out in December. And much as I was disappointed by The Last Jedi, my wife and I are planning to see it. And I'm ever the optimist, as a lot of you know. I'm holding out hope that Disney has really seen the error of their ways and are going to bring something amazing to try and redeem the series. You know, and they got oh shoot, what's his name? Slipping my mind. Who directed Episode 7 back, even though that wasn't the plan. But they're bringing him back after the disaster that was created by Rian Johnson in Episode 8. Now, that's, of course, my personal opinion. I know I have spoken to people who bafflingly thought that The Last Jedi was amazing. And I watched...
It's called Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah. I watched it again over the past couple of days. I decided I was going to refresh my memory before I go into The Rise of Skywalker. And my opinion of it hasn't changed in the 2 years since I originally saw it. I feel like it had some excellent moments interspersed with a bunch of absurdity and also some prequel error.
Just lore breaking, just lore. And it's I hate this so much because the newest Star Trek show out just trashes the lore. It's yeah, the replicators, everything you're wrong. Did you not pick up a book? Did you not look at anything? The people who I think made these movies never actually watched a show, watched maybe a minute or two clip online, or saw some pictures, like still frame photos taken from the shows, and we're like, oh yes, of course, I and my brilliant mind over here, I'm totally able to create the most perfect interpretation of this new thing. We're gonna do just so much with this. It's gonna be great. Yeah. It's no, it's gonna be trash.
Kazra Azad says, Ash, they're still doing reshoots. How good can it really be? Well, I don't know. I mean, Rogue One was pretty good, and they did a ton of reshoots on that. I think that I don't think the reshoots and you could tell that it had been that a large chunk of that movie had been rewritten. Mm-hmm. I could tell that just because of the character the main character changed halfway through Rogue One. It was weird.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I really hated what they did to that, because that was the original Kyle Katarn story, and I'm just so disappointed with it.
I think we did a whole podcast on that once.
Yeah.
So, latest Sir Caden says latest Star Wars test screenings sound terrible according to rumors. Could be. I mean, again, I'm going into it with cautious optimism. I'm seeing the movie. I love Star Wars. When I was a teen, when I was about 9-10 years old, I would watch one of the original Star Wars movies every single weekend. And all my friends were into it. That's what we would play on the playground. That was what we would talk about. I had a bunch of the little toys and things. It was, it's just such a part of my life that it is. Mm-hmm. It's hard to give up hope on it. And I'll admit that I might have, if episode 9 is garbage, then I may just have to let it go. But
I really liked I really love Star Wars too, and that's why I'm so adamant that the murderer of Star Wars needs to be dragged out into the light and prosecuted within an inch of the law. I don't think I'm saying that right, and I don't think that flew right. But you know what I'm saying.
I don't
They,
think we can
they
legally. I don't think we
murdered,
can
they
legally
murdered.
prosecute them for. I don't think murdering nostalgia is a crime in any district. But anyway, all of that to say, I fired up Jedi Fallen Order the other day, and it was like returning to my childhood. This was. It's not a perfect game. It's like on the range of 1 to 10, I think I would give it a 7 in terms of the actual game itself. But the Star Warsness of it, I felt like I was back in Star Wars, and I cannot tell you how amazing that was. So that, of course, will strongly that'll probably strongly bias me in my view of the game, but it's complete brain fart. Sorry, folks.
It's good. It's good. It plays like old Star Wars games that you're familiar with.
Absolutely, here's where I was going to go with it. Like a couple hours in, I was like, this is a way better story.
Oh yeah,
way better characters than anything they've come up with in the new trilogy. Or what are they doing?
yeah, in the new movies, yeah.
Like, what are they doing? Like, Episode 7 gets a lot of like. I did not hate Episode 7. I did not hate the Force Awakens. Yes, it was very formulaic. There were a lot of things rehashed, but I felt it was a solid, safe foundation to build a new trilogy on. So yes, not the greatest movie ever, but I was like, okay, they're going places with this, and it looks like they're going in a good direction. But then, of course,
little did we know they were flying straight for the garbage disposal at full speed.
And then Rogue One was pretty decent, and then Last Jedi, of course, disappointed me horribly, and I didn't like Solo either. So this I don't know, it's a difficult thing to balance. Like, Star Wars can have really, really great installments, and then it can have terrible ones. It's just because it seems to be so all over the place. But I mean, it's kind of baffling that this game just came up with such a great setting, really interesting characters, and a good story. And this came from EA. I mean, I know it came from Respawn, and they were working on it before they were acquired by EA.
It didn't just come from Respawn. It came from Chris Avellone.
Well, he was involved in it.
Which has been one of the best writers in video games, period. We've interviewed him before, and just one of the best creative minds in the industry, behind pretty much everything that has been, that's been well received and highly anticipated. And it's like, where was EA doing this and hiring these people, like, I don't know, 6 years ago? Like, really, seriously, I don't understand.
Yeah,
like, it took them this long to get it through their thick skulls.
Well, this was the same company that thought single player gaming was dead, so there's that. But yeah, all right. So anyway, the Star Warsness of it, it's very Star Wars. So that's a sentence that I just said. All right. So there's a lot of people are conflicted about it because it's EA, and I totally get that. I totally. Oh yeah. If you don't want to check it out, I
am not buying this game because it's EA. I am rooting for the game to do well because it's a return to norms, but I'm so butthurt over, to use the phraseology, I'm so butthurt over the last everything to do with EA period in the last decade that I just can't. Nope.
Well, that's fair. And you know what? The EA part of it all is probably the most annoying thing. Having to launch, like, I bought it through Steam, but loading it up, it's got to launch Origin because it's got to verify my Origin account and all of this. And so launching the game takes freaking forever, if it launches at all. And I mean, there's some kind of DRM on there. I hear it's been cracked now, but there's some performance issues. I'm having some performance issues with it. It'll run smooth. I can it can run well over 60 FPS on my machine, and yet I'll just get random stuttering, and occasionally it'll freeze for anywhere from 5 seconds to up to 15 or 20 seconds. But I'll still hear the sound, and it'll eventually just return to normal. The really weird technical stuff like that is going on. But outside of that, runs really smoothly. Had a couple of crash to desktop. Now, I don't know if that's Respawn's fault or EA's fault or whatever, but it just seems like the packaging that this game comes in, I have some issues with. But the game itself, I'm loving. I'm loving it. I'm loving the open world aspect of it. I'm loving the exploration aspect of it. I love the characters, the settings that they come up with, the scene you start off the game in this ship breaking yard, where they bring in huge starships and all these people, breaking them down and salvaging them. It's just such a cool setting because you're seeing all these busted star destroyers and stuff, and then they bring in, they bring in a separatist ship, some of the stuff from the prequel trilogy and whatnot. So your character is just he's a partially trained Jedi who is hiding out in this, just acting like one of the workers, because this is post prequels. It's after Order 66. All the Jedi have been destroyed, and so he's in hiding from the Empire. Now, it's very cool. The one character that I find to be incredibly bland is the protagonist himself. I think this game would have benefited hugely from a character creator, because it seems like they went generic male, and he just his list of interesting attributes seems to be has a lightsaber. That's about it. He's got some Jedi powers and he's got a lightsaber. Other than that, he's not all that interesting. His story is kind of interesting, but as a character, he's just kind of meh. But the supporting characters are very cool. I love all of the other characters that I've encountered so far. So, Niv Ozzy's asking how many hours in am I now, Ash? 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, you just got back from vacation. So
I got a late start on it because it came out while I was on vacation. So this is kind of a review in progress, if you want to call it that. But yeah, so I've been to 4 or 5 different planets now, exploring different areas. I like the open worldness of it, the optional paths. Exploration really pays off. I found a couple of very useful upgrades just by exploring parts of the map where, I didn't have any markers telling me to go there, but I just wanted to go and see what was there and just find things that would give me these different upgrades. And so yeah, the overall just really, really enjoying the experience of the game. And the combat, I like the combat quite a lot. It can be it's been a little frustrating at times that you have until you get saber throw, which I don't have it yet. You don't really have a ranged option. So there were a few points, and I'm playing it on not the hardest difficulty, but not the easiest difficulty. I'm playing it on second hardest difficulty, and it does get pretty difficult. And so there was one, I encountered this one part where there's a bunch of stormtroopers down in the valley. Oh, and you have to fight these scout troopers too, who are melee enemies with those electric baton things, and they block and defend fairly well. So you do have to fight fairly strategically. So there are 4 of these guys in this little area, and standing on a cliff up above was a stormtrooper with a rocket launcher, and that was a one-hit kill if that rocket hit me. And so it was it took several attempts to figure out, okay, how do I beat this fight without getting hit by this rocket? Mm-hmm. And that's on the second hardest difficulty. the hardest difficulty, I imagine, is pretty darn insane. But it it's the kind of game that I that I really like. It's the main story. Sends you to different places to find different things, but lots of side exploration and very strategic and somewhat difficult combat. Of course, there's easier, unlike like Sekiro and Soulsborne games. You can crank the difficulty down and just be in story mode, which if you want to do that, all power to you, because the cutscenes are very well done. The characters are the dialogue is really well written, and so yeah, I mean that's a testament to, like you said, Chris Avlon worked on it. So very well done. Not a perfect game, but I've got a really good impression of it thus far. So, yeah, there's probably some specific things I should be talking about with regards to it. My brain's just a little foggy right now.
Not well. You don't want to spoil the story.
I don't want to spoil the story. I'm
and
just trying to
the
think
gameplay and the feeling. I think you've done a good job. So,
really, I should say this. It's got a lot of Tomb Raider in it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of climbing around, and you even go into to explore ancient tombs, quite literally. But there's a lot of climbing around, a lot of different movement mechanics, swinging on ropes, that kind of a thing. And so I like that a lot. I like the Tomb Raider games. So if you like that kind of gameplay, if you like Tomb Raider gameplay sort of mixed with the old Jedi Knight games, you probably enjoy this one. And it's a lot more open world than the original announcements led us to believe. It's got a lot of you can once things open up, like you can travel to any planet you want, and there's pathways that are closed off to you until you have certain abilities, or until your little droid buddy has certain abilities, and you don't know when you're necessarily going to encounter them. So sometimes you will go back to a planet you've been to, and there's entirely new pathways opened up. So I like that a lot. Anyway, what were you going to say, Saib?
No, that's it. Like I think the covers are good, because again, it's still really early on. We don't want to jump in on that just yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as far as James asking, do we have any info on sales yet? There's a couple of good sales on right now. There's been some pretty decent stuff. I think we've got Black Friday coming up, Cyber Monday. Check out what you're looking for. Again, we're hearing a lot of rumors about the next gen of graphics cards that'll be coming out this year, later this year, and there's a whole bunch of sales on. You can pick up a 1080 for dirt cheap coming up on this on the weekend here. So if you need an upgrade and you want to pick up something for less than $200, looks like now's a pretty good time. And if you wait until Boxing Day, if that's a thing where you're at, then that might be an even better idea, and we might see even more sales, because by then we're going to start getting there's going to be whispers of the new gen of graphics cards, and we're going to have ray tracing. It's going to start becoming kind of a mainstay thing. I really don't want to swap out to I would really rather keep my GeForce, but ray tracing, so we'll see how that goes. Right now there's a lot of rumors going on and not too much fact, hard fact. So I don't want to steer you down the wrong way, and we're not going to really get into that until probably end of the year type thing, into the new year. So
right. Tara K says, I'm wondering why you aren't just dominating stuff when you have a lightsaber and the Force and almost nobody else does. Well, in some ways you do. But in some ways, normal stormtroopers are super easy.
See, but it's kind of like magic. And I know a lot of wizards who were really good and were really awesome until they got stabbed in the back. That's why you don't. That's why you're not literally God walking around on the planet, is because you're just really good in a fight. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, true. And I mean, the guy's not a fully trained Jedi, and you have, as with as with most games of this type, you have a limited power bar for using the Force, and so you can run out. So you got to use it kind of strategically. You gain your Force powers over time as you level up, and XP goes towards skill points, which you can buy more skills. But they have you have your run of the mill stormtroopers, which are super easy to take down. Deflect one bolt back at them, it'll take them out. But then there's the there's the commander stormtroopers. Then there's some with rocket launchers, like I said, which were kind of difficult. And once I got force push, and you can push the rocket back at them, that's a lot of fun. But they also have things called purge troopers, who are troopers that are specially trained to fight Jedi. And also the scout troopers have their sort of batons that they use, and so you have to block, deflect, dodge, all of that. So yeah, I mean, it is, you kind of get it. Obviously, it's different than the movies where like, okay, the lightsaber can literally just slice through everything, and so you hit a guy once, he's down because you've just sliced him in half, basically. Obviously, because they've gamified it, it has to be a little different than that. But it works. What they've done works. It's got a melee stamina system. You can deflect, block, dodge, all of these different things, and you can put skills into it as you will that fits your play style. And a huge variety of enemies thus far. So yeah, I feel like my impressions on that were a little disjointed, but I'm working on some more formal content for it. So yeah, anyway, hope that's helpful. Like I said, if you don't want to buy it because it's EA, I totally get that. But that's one question I was going to raise, and we're running out of time, so we won't be able to discuss this too much. But I guess the question is, do you support EA for doing the right thing, or the kind of thing we want to support, putting out a really good single player experience, without microtransaction crap in it and all kinds of disgusting monetization? Or do you withhold your support because of what they've done in the past? That's a decision that, nobody can make for you, obviously. I think I don't even know where, what my recommendation would be in response to that question. Like, Saib's on the one side of that where he doesn't want to support EA at all.
No, I'm too pissed at them, but I also have way too much stuff going on right now. And like I've said before, out of all the characters that I'm interested in playing, fair-skinned Ginger, not really high on that list.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Character creator would have added so much to this game.
Yeah,
I was reading that originally they considered doing an alien as the main character, or they considered a human female as the main character, but then
what they should have done is what they did in Jedi Academy, and it's like you're named, you're called Mass Effect for something a lot more recent. It's like you're Commander Shepard. That is a unisex thing. You can be an alien, you can be a human, you could be male, female, whatever you dang near want.
Yeah,
and honestly, that would have made this game probably perfect for me. You not only that is they could have introduced like a huge clothing thing and costumes and all this other stuff, and it's like, but no, for some reason they didn't do it, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. It's so obvious. But anyways,
normally I don't care about character creators all that much, but if you're gonna have a protagonist this bland, at least let us figure out what they look like and stuff like that. And let the player kind of make the character their own.
Yeah.
If you're going to do if you're going to do a non-customizable protagonist, make them an interesting character. Kyle Katarn, awesome character.
Yep. Solid. Rock solid.
Cal Kestis is just kind of dude with lightsaber.
So just quickly, there's another game. So this is it's called Encased. It is a sci-fi post-apocalyptic RPG game. It's very much in the run of kind of like the Fallout feel. It's a turn-based game, and it is an isometric game that really goes to the roots of what the old Fallout games were actually like. It is in early access. It's on Steam. You can buy into it early access. Very similar. There's a lot of similarities to this game than there was to the Divinity Original Sin 2, in that that they're putting out content bit by bit for the first portion of the game. So in Divinity Original Sin, you had 4 acts, and Act 1 was entirely available to the early access gameplay team until the official launch, in which case then you got the first act, and then you got 3 more acts on top of that. I feel that they're doing something similar with this, so they're kind of doing it that way. They just had a big content expansion. It's the first one, content expansion number 1. If you guys are interested in seeing this game, having us go through it, this really is very Fallout-esque. So if this is something that interests you, let us know, because I'm really interested in playing this and kind of streaming it up. And I am now available for streaming pretty often. So we're gonna kick that up. I'm probably gonna finish taking a week off here for the most part, but we're gonna get into streaming. We're gonna get into a bunch of stuff. So let us know what you want to see us showcasing, and then we've got some other cool news that's coming up. So yeah, stay tuned.
All right.
Lots of good stuff. There is some Cyberpunk stuff going on. We will talk about it on this Saturday. We're probably going to have more of it out. We have a couple more new characters. No, not unemployed. I do contract work for the most part, and big contract just finished, and I won't be going back for another couple months here. So same thing that happened last year, except that this year I'm way more busy. I still work 16 hours a day, irregardless of what contract I'm on. It's just I get to focus on different things. So when I have less contract work to do, then I'm focusing more on the channel, and I'm focusing more on writing. When I have less of that, when I'm doing full-time contract work, then I'm back at it full-time. So yeah.
All right, with that, we got to wrap up the podcast. So thank you so much, everybody, for the great conversation in chat. Thank you for supporting the show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button if you haven't yet. We really appreciate that. If you're listening after the fact, leave comments below, that kind of a thing. Keeps the algorithm happy and helps other people find this content. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters and channel members who help make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon, Old Man Manson, and our 2 anonymous supporters. Also our channel members, Jason Cropper, Mr. Padzernick, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Paul Young, Night City Punk, and Terror K. Thank you all very much. If you're listening on one of the audio-only platforms, we appreciate your interactions as well. Don't forget to join the live show on YouTube, Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings. Schedule subject to change in the near future, but that is the current schedule. Check the Discord server for our current streaming schedule. Always, you can find we have a special channel there that lays that all out. So if anything changes because of Cyb's new hours of availability, we will let you know ASAP. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash Aninity on behalf of Cybsidian. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.